Hey JCA, it's good to be back. I was off for a couple of weeks and I'm excited to cook for you this awesome meal and also have a really good discussion about meat and eating meat. I've gotten so many questions lately about, should we be eating meat? What are the health implications? Should we become vegetarian or even vegan? So I'm going to be going through all that kind of information today, and I'm also going to be cooking a really delicious chili for our football Sunday today. So just to get you a little information about what I'm doing, and then I'll get into that conversation about meat. I already have sauteing over here some red and green peppers, and so trying to make things go a little bit faster because sometimes I don't get to finish my meals. I'm going to raise the heat a little bit to just try to get it going a little faster than I would normally. But what I'm going to be doing here is sauteing my peppers. I've discussed this before, that I always cook things in the order in which that they take the longest. So peppers take a little bit longer to brown up. Then I'm going to be adding in the onions and some garlic. I have over here a bowl of bison meat. So you could use any kind of meat that you like. I have bison here. Bison is a little bit lean. And so sometimes it could be a little bit dry if you don't add your own fat to it. So I did add a little bit of avocado oil to just get it a little bit more moist and give it a little bit more of that sort of texture that is missing when meat does not have as much fat. So the leaner the meat is, the more you have to add additional oils and butter sometimes if you want to make it have that little bit more of that taste texture that you're looking for. And then I have in here some balsamic vinegar, some red wine, because I always like to add that acidic part of the meat, of the flavor. I have a little bit of honey, because you're going to see I have some special ingredients that I'm going to be adding to the chili, and I felt like honey would go along well with the taste flavors that I'm going to be adding a little bit later. So stay tuned to hear about those ingredients. But a little bit of honey, a little bit of mustard. I can't make anything without mustard, it sounds like, and a little bit of coconut aminos, which is kind of exactly like soy sauce. It's just a healthier version because soy in the United States is very genetically modified, and it also has lots of pesticides added to it. So I always try to avoid using soy and in the United States, and I switched to coconut aminos instead, which is sold right next to the soy sauce in the supermarket. So right in the condiment aisle, you will find coconut aminos. I'll show you what it looks like. That's right there. But just to review, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of red wine, a little mustard, a little honey, and some coconut aminos. And then I also seasoned it, my usual seasonings, which is always salt and pepper and garlic and onion powder. But especially for this dish, because I wanted it to have this like sort of a little bit more ethnic quality, or a little taste from that in that end. So I added turmeric, a little bit of curry powder, and a little bit of cardamom. So those are my new flavors for today. A little bit of curry powder, cardamom, and turmeric. So that combination is a really good group of seasonings. Sometimes you could also add some cumin to that. That combination tastes really good together. Okay, so already, because I put this fire on higher than usual, because I wanted to cook a little faster than I normally would, it's already starting to brown up. But I did add the peppers first because they take a little bit longer than the onions do, and I always cook in the order that things take to cook. I won't season any of these vegetables until they're already browned, because once you add salt to the vegetables, the water sort of seeps out and the vegetables will no longer brown. So I wait to the end, to do the seasoning. And in the meantime, I just have some avocado oil in there with my veggies cooking away. Of course, we're making a nutrient-dense meal because every food that we are eating is packed with vitamins and minerals. And we are eating a nutrient-diverse meal because we're getting all the different colors of the rainbow, which means we're getting all the different vitamins and minerals that our bodies need to carry out all the processes that we do all day, every day. Okay, so let me take a minute before I continue on with this meal and just address the topic of should we be eating meat? I get this question all the time because there is definitely a lot of controversy around this topic, and there are many of you who feel that everybody should be eating plant-based and that vegetables should be the mainstay of our diet, and basically eliminating meat is the best way to go. And I will say this, I have dug deep into the research on this. I really have. I have searched through all the literature that I could possibly find. And there's a difference between studies that are done where everything is controlled for, everything stays the same, except for the one factor that you are wanting to test. So if everybody's doing the same amount of exercise and everybody is getting the same amount of sleep and has the same amount of stress, and all those factors are completely exactly the same in everybody in the study, but the only difference is that one group eats meat and one group does not eat meat. So in all of those really well done, controlled studies where everything stayed the same except for the factor of eating meat or not eating meat, in those studies, there are no differences between the two groups, meaning that eating meat did not raise the risk for getting cancer, it did not raise the risk for getting heart disease, and people lived just as healthfully as the group of people who eliminated meat. So when the studies are controlled that way, there does not seem to be that risk from eating meat. There are, on the other hand, large population-based studies, which means that things are not controlled for. You go to one country and you look at all the people in that country and you decide if those people are eating meat and if those people seem to have higher risks of getting conditions like cancer or heart disease. But in those population-based studies, we can't control for whether those people are exercising, whether they are smoking cigarettes, or whether they are eating any vegetables at all. They all live in the same place. They all breathe the same possibly polluted or not polluted air. So when we look at those populations of people and say, well, those people eat a lot of meat and those people have a little bit more risk of cancer. However, the problem is that we have not controlled for the fact that maybe that entire population of people is also not exercising, is also not eating any vegetables and fruits, is possibly all breathing in the same maybe polluted air. Possibly they are more stressed in that specific location that those people are being studied. So when we have uncontrolled studies, that is where people start making claims that, well, meat must be the problematic thing. Meat must be the thing that's causing their increased risk for cancer or heart disease. But we don't really know that. It could be a combination of many, many other things. And when we don't control the study so great, then it's impossible to know whether that increased risk for cancer is because of the meat or if it's because of all other kinds of things that those people are doing. So I hope that made sense, because that is like a lot of like sort of technical information about having controlled studies where you can really compare one important factor in two groups of people versus a population-based study where many factors are playing a role and we can't really control for that, just that one factor. Now, I will say that the quality of the meat that we eat does make a difference. So if you go back up a second, my conclusion from the research that I did was that in very well controlled studies, meat does not seem to be a factor that increases people's risk for cancer or heart disease. However, when we look at meat that comes from animals that have been living in cages and being fed unhealthy food, if you think about it, those animals are absolutely going to be more stressed while they are living, right? And stress causes inflammation. Stress causes your body to release inflammatory cells. So if we as human beings are going to eat the meat from animals that have been stressed their whole life, that animal meat is going to be more inflammatory than animals that have been raised on the pasture and able to graze at their own leisure and being fed healthy grass, is what they're being fed on. So those animals are going to be a lot more inflammatory. They are actually going to have the meat that as human beings we would want to eat, because that can actually reduce inflammation. Higher in that omega-3 fatty acids, which is the anti-inflammatory fatty acid. So when we choose animal protein from those less stressed animals, then that is the way to go. However, to make a blanket statement that eating meat is what causes cancer or higher risk for heart disease is actually not factual if you look into the research and look for well-designed, controlled studies. So I wouldn't say that you need to eliminate meat. I really wouldn't. I would just say try to choose the meats that have that have been grass-fed and pasture-raised and have higher amounts of the anti-inflammatory compounds that we want to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and add the onions so I could keep moving along with my recipe here. And then I'm also going to bring up another point, which is, I think I'm just going to add a little bit more avocado oil to this. Just get the onions going a little bit. Okay. And then the other idea to think about when we're eating meat is the one that people did, the argument that is, well, animals are releasing more methane gas and that they are impacting our environment. And what I would say on this is, and this may sound, I don't know, this is kind of against what a lot of people are thinking when it comes to the way that animals impact our environment. But if we as human beings just allowed animals to overgraze our grasslands and our plants, that would impact our environment as well. So it is actually, I actually view it as a benefit to remove animals from our grass and plant lands in like interval basis, like maybe like in seasonal time periods, so that we can allow for our plants and our grass and all our greenery to regrow. If we didn't follow that chain of, humans are on top of animals, is on top of fish, on top of green and plants. There's a chain, and it is natural for each of us to eat the food that is below us, and to then allow for the greenery and the grass and the fruits and the vegetables to then regrow. This is a cycle of life that is the way we were humanly and naturally built to live. So I don't necessarily think that we are hurting the environment by eating meat. I really don't. So that is my take. Just as a review, if we do look at really controlled, well-done studies, it does not seem that meat causes cancer or heart disease. It's important that we choose higher quality meats that are grass-fed and organic and pasture-raised. And it is very important also that we include lots of fruits and vegetables in our diet. I'm not saying that we should, become carnivores and only eat meat, which although there are people who believe in that. But I do think that eating meat is a healthy part of a healthy diet. There are certain nutrients in animals, some things like iron and B12 and vitamins A and D and omega-3 fatty acids. These are nutrients that we cannot necessarily get from plant foods. I know that people who are vegetarian will fight me till the end on this, but it is absolutely true. They have to take supplements to replace the nutrients that they are missing. And some of those nutrients, even though we can get the precursors from vegetables, meaning we might be able to get beta carotene from eating a carrot, and that is supposed to turn into vitamin A in our bodies. But everybody is different, and not everybody has that conversion that is so easy to follow. So some people might not be able to convert beta carotene to vitamin A so easily. Some people might not be able to convert the type of iron that you get from spinach into the type of iron that our bodies use. But when you eat meat, it's already preformed in the type of iron that our bodies can easily absorb and use. So there are some really good reasons why including meat in our diet is important. It doesn't have to be every single day, but I would recommend choosing high quality, grass-fed, organic, and pasture-raised meat and including that in our healthy diet to ensure that we're getting iron and B12 and vitamin A and D and omega-3 fatty acid and even some others. So I know I like to kind of repeat myself a lot in these videos because I know people are just sort of popping in for 1 minute and popping out for another. So rewind, if you missed anything that I said about my perspective on eating meat, please rewind the video and watch again because I think that I really have put a lot of effort into learning about this topic and wanting to give people the very best advice that I can. So there you go. Let me get back to this fun meal that I'm making. So I have my onions and peppers. They look pretty ready to go. So this is how I normally do things. I always cook things in the order that it takes for them to be ready. So I've already cooked my peppers, green and red peppers and white onions. And now what I'm gonna do is lower the temperature all the way down, move my vegetables around to the edge of the pot, and add in my minced garlic. So that's about 4 cloves of garlic right there. I made sure to lower the temperature because garlic burns easily and we don't want that to happen at all. So I lowered the temperature, add the garlic to the middle, and then I'm gonna cover that with a little bit of this really high quality olive oil that I really love. It's always good to use olive oil when you've already really lowered the temperature because olive oil is another ingredient that could easily burn and we don't want that to happen, obviously. So I'm gonna kind of let the garlic like melt into that oil and that is gonna add a delicious flavor to our chili. And I said before that I don't season any of these things until the end because the vegetables don't really brown as well once you season them. So once the garlic is already done, that is about when I will season it, and then I will make another little hole in the center of my pot and I will add my bison meat, which is the very lean protein that I'm adding to this chili. Which I said before, I've already added a little bit of avocado oil because it's so lean, you need to add a little bit of fat back into it. So a little avocado oil, some red wine, and balsamic vinegar. Those are the acid portion or component that I added to this, because I always like to add acid to my little flavor to flavor my foods. Then I have some mustard, a little bit of honey, because that is going to mix well with my final ingredients that I add into my chili, and mustard and some coconut aminos, which is my soy sauce replacement. Okay, so I think that my garlic is melting up nicely. Okay, I'm gonna mix all that together, and then, like I said, I'm going to season. Now I'm gonna raise the temperature back a little bit so that everything can sort of meld together. I'm going to season this, and I had mentioned before that in addition to all the regular seasonings that I already use all the time, which is onion and garlic and paprika and chili powder, I've also added the flavor combination of curry powder, which I really love. If you haven't cooked with curry powder yet, I highly recommend adding that. But curry powder, cardamom, and turmeric, those are a great combination flavor. And then even to that, I didn't add it today, but you could add some cumin to that as well. That's a really good combination. Okay, I'm almost there, but you can see I love my seasonings. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing, I think. Okay, all right, that's it. So now, like I said, I'm gonna mix all that together, and then I'm gonna move all this to the edges of the pot, and I'm going to add in my already seasoned and sauced bison meat right to the center of the pot. I added some avocado oil to that, so I know it's not gonna stick. And I added that because bison meat is so lean, and I really, when you cook with bison meat, you gotta add in a little bit of that fat back in. So some avocado oil or coconut oil or ghee, if you're okay with adding that to meat, but that's how I go. Okay. So what I am going to, it's about time I reveal my secret ingredients to this chili. So as the meat is browning, I already have my green and red peppers and my onions, that delicious garlic. It's starting to smell so good in this house. Okay, so my last final 3 ingredients after my meat browns is going to be a combination of pineapples chopped, tomatoes diced, and a big old bag of kale. You could use spinach as well, but I love to add those green leafy vegetables at the very end because they don't need time for cooking. They really just wilt up quickly in the heat of the food. So let me back up one more time. For those of you who have missed, what I have going on right here is I first started with my green and red peppers, sauteed those first because they take a little bit longer than something like an onion, which I added next. And I didn't season anything because I wanted to let all that brown. Once you add the seasonings, those vegetables don't brown up as quickly. Then I separated all the vegetables and put my minced garlic right into the center of the pot on a very low temperature with some olive oil and let the garlic melt up together. I mixed everything together and seasoned it. Then I added to the center of the pot my bison meat, which is browning up perfectly right now. My bison meat was seasoned with a little bit of honey and red wine, balsamic vinegar, mustard, and coconut aminos. And then I also added, in addition to my seasonings that I always use, which is garlic powder and onion powder and paprika and chili powder and salt and pepper, I also added, for the flavor combination, of curry powder, cardamom, and turmeric, which I highly recommend trying, and even a little bit of cumin if you like that sort of ethnic flavor. And I really wanted to add those flavors because I thought that they would make a good combination with my last few ingredients that I haven't added yet, which are pineapples, tomatoes, and kale. So I think we called this dish Hawaiian chili, beef chili, pineapple chili, and with tomatoes and kale. And the way that I'm going to serve this later on is I'm probably going to make some rice, and then so put the rice underneath, the chili on top, and then to cover it up, little slices of avocado. So that will be such a nutrient-dense, nutrient-diverse meal with all the fruits and vegetables, the right amount, probably about 4 ounces of meat that I'll put on each serving, each portion size. Some avocado for that really healthy fatty acids that we're looking for, the anti-inflammatory fat that's in avocado, and we'll have all the different colors. Oh, and that was the last thing. And it will have the resistant starch because I will make some rice to put underneath it. So that's that resistant starch that I always say should be part of our meals, which feeds the bacteria in our gut. So a really healthy, delicious meal. It smells amazing in here. I can't wait for you to, if you give it a shot, let me know what you think. I think the whole family will enjoy this because it has the perfect combination of sweet and salty. I think it's about time for me to add this in. And this is, I'm just gonna let this all simmer to make a really delicious, like, sort of sauce together. And then at the very end, I'm going to add my whole entire bag of kale right here. And that could be added at the very end because it takes no time to wilt up in there, so that will take no time at all. And I may just at the very end, once I add the kale in, just put a little salt and pepper because I always like to season in layers. So we seasoned our vegetables first. We already had seasoned our bison, so that was done. And then at the very end, once I add the tomatoes, pineapples, and kale, I might just add a little bit more salt, pepper, just making sure each layer is seasoned so that we have lots of flavor in the final product. So it was great to see you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this recipe and my perspective on eating meat. This is a very controversial topic, and I love hearing all kinds of opinions and studies and whatever information is out there. I always want to stay informed so that I can give the best recommendations to the people that work with me. So if you have information you want to share with me, I would love to see it. But other than that, check out the JCA website and sign up for nutrition services if you'd like to work with me either one-on-one or in a group. But have a wonderful week, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.